this is Shamika, and the person who's slowly coming this way is my husband Rinky. It's not my husband Rinky, sorry.
It's your husband Ishti.
My husband
Rinky is our cat.
Sorry. Because usually I say my husband Ishti and our cat Rinky.
Rinky couldn't join us today because we gave her a good clean.
Yeah,
and she thinks we betrayed her.
No, actually, she loves getting cleaned. Like, when I brush her, she loves it. She's, like, purring all day. And then she gets so relaxed that she then goes into one of my drawers, and that's, like, her safe space, and that's where she takes a nap. So now she's napping in there, and we didn't want to disturb her. So she's not here with us now for a little intro, but I do promise to share more Rinky shorts, which a lot of you seem to like. So those will come soon within the next few days. So do watch this space for that. But I want to start off by asking you, Ishti, my husband, how is your Sunday?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Not too bad. It's a nice day outside. Might hit the beach later after this show.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yesterday it was raining in Vancouver, which was good. We got a little bit of a reprieve from the sun, but today it's all sunshiny again, so it's lovely. The weather's nice. So in today's episode, I really wanted to talk about this idea or concept that I've been thinking about. It's not fully formed as of yet, but I have been kind of thinking about it. And this is also based on books I've read and the research that I've done in relation to my own work as well. So the term I wanted to kind of explore a little bit more is called Systemico-cultural. So it's SYSTEMICO, Systemico, and then a hyphen cultural. And a lot of people have spoken about this in different depths, in different manners, and as well as in their own research and work. But I wanted to shed a little bit more light on this and see if I can kind of bring a definition to this concept. So we all know that in our world and universally there are systems in place, whether that is in schools or in a workplace, in let's say a bank, or any institution operates in the form of a system, right? Like there are systemic, let's say, policies, systemic issues, barriers. So there are these structures that are in place that help to make an institution function. Now, some of those can actually be helpful, but there are a lot that can also act as barriers. So I wanted to focus on sort of the barrier aspect of things and the inequities that kind of come with some structural aspects that might be, or systemic aspects that might be in place. So that's where the term systemico comes in, and it's universally applied. So let's say in North America, if you have an institution, a workplace, there are systems in place, there are ways in which things work. And if you, let's say, sort of transition into another continent, Europe, or let's say Asia, for instance. I know I'm kind of talking about these more in monolithic terms, but just to kind of give you like a broader idea, there are systems there too. Now, when I talk about systemico-cultural, I'm sort of zeroing in a bit. So let's say, at a broader concept, yeah, there are systems in place, but if you kind of zero in and look at it a bit more, in a bit more of a narrow way, you would see that maybe in some parts of the world, or in some regions, like within a particular continent, or let's say in a particular institution in a city that then belongs to a country. So you see how kind of specific we're going into this. So let's say there are region-specific ways in which systems work, and they are also tied to aspects of culture. So I was talking to my husband Ishti the other day, and we were talking about the notion of bribery. Now, for most of you that are kind of familiar with this concept, bribery is when, money is given for a task to be completed. Now, this could exist in sort of a social manner. It could be something that is entwined at a cultural notion, or it might also be familial as well, or an intertwining of these three factors. Now, when we think of bribery, what I have noticed is that the bribe culture can be more evident in certain parts than in others, or it could be more normalized and it could be kind of imbibed into the system than in other parts of, let's say, the world. And I'm not saying that, when one aspect or one kind of system functions in one part of the world, it cannot do in the other part of the world. Of course, like a lot of these aspects are universal, but sometimes it gets intertwined within a culture. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to kind of bring about, systemico-cultural, where you kind of zero in on how a specific nation, a specific country might have its own particular ways of operating or functioning or utilizing the system that is also cultural, where that form of systemic usage also becomes the norm. So that's kind of where I'm still dabbling with this concept. There are things that I need to kind of study further on and kind of revise how this concept is utilized, but this is just tentative. I kind of just came up with it a few days ago, so I wanted to kind of test, try, and see how this might land. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Do you have any questions with regards to this?
Yeah, why did you use bribery as an example? That's a pretty dark example.
Yeah. I use bribery because we were talking about it the other day. So that's why I'm like, oh, okay. That day when I was having a conversation with Ishti, this kind of came up. Yeah. And I'm thinking of like other examples as well. Where let's say a workplace, for instance, let's say this is workplace A and workplace B, and both workplace A and workplace B are kind of located in different parts of the world, right? And they have their different cultural nuances and ways in which they do things, and both of these companies in these different countries have a system in the way that they go about doing things. But let's say workplace A, which belongs to a particular region, let's say both of these companies have gender discrimination, and they do have policies in place to prevent any form of discriminatory acts, but then there are nuances and ways in which this happens. Now in workplace B, this form of gender discrimination might take place in a very implicit level, very indirect. It's more benign. It can be in the form of a microaggression where you're like, wait, did that person just say that casually, quote unquote? So that could be one way of which this discrimination takes place in a particular region in where workplace B is located, right? Now let's move to another part of the world, and you have workplace A. There, for instance, let's say the gender discrimination is a lot more explicit, where it's more overt, and it's almost unapologetic, and maybe the policies that are in place look very different from, let's say, policies that are in place.
They're not adequate for that region. That region needs more stricter regulations or rules.
Right, yeah. So that's where, and but one thing, so those are systemic for sure. And the person who goes through these forms of like discrimination, that also impacts them in different ways, right? But let's say workplace AAA, where not AAA, where this form of explicit gender discrimination takes place, it's also entwined with their work culture. So I want to be very careful, because when I use the word culture, it's not used in a way where I'm otherizing or seeing something as quote unquote lesser than. It's more of a way to kind of showcase the distinctions and the nuances of how different systems operate in different parts of the world. and how that also becomes normalized and becomes entwined with, like, let's say, the work culture there, or how it then becomes the norm in the way where things are not really asked to be changed. So that's where I'm kind of dabbling with the word systemico-cultural. Like, a lot of the systemic aspects that you see, barriers, inequities, are also very much entwined with a particular spatio-cultural or cultural aspect within sort of
What are
that
some
space.
positive examples of this? Bribery and gender discrimination are both negative examples.
Right.
Give us some positive examples.
Positive examples, okay. One thing that I could kind of think of would be maybe the way that one carries out research might look different, and just like from based on my own experience, because I did research in North America, and I also conducted research in Bangladesh as well, as part of my project, so field trip and field research. What I noticed was sort of the way in which the research took place was very entwined in community work and community practice. And what I mean by this is that, you don't have this book, let me get it for you. Or like, so somebody who knows somebody, let's say a friend of mine who knows another friend of mine, would then help to attain that book. Or if I am going to, let's say, a museum to engage in research, and I'm engaging in discussion with the curator there, other people who are looking around will also come to then be like, oh, okay, I couldn't help but over here. These are some of the things I know, you should talk to this and this person. So that's something that I experienced specifically when I was conducting research in Bangladesh, it might also be in the sense where I'm going to, let's say, visit a site, and there, the person who is taking care of that historical site might come over and start talking to me about the historical aspects of, that origin and what had happened over like cups of tea for hours, and just explaining things, and sort of helping with that research in that way. So that's something that's very much cultural centric, and that's something that I had experienced in Bangladesh, and I haven't had an opportunity to go to engage in fieldwork in other parts of South Asia and other parts of the world, but this is just a distinction that I had noticed in that specific part.
This reminds me of another positive example where, like, a lot of Western institutions, if you do research and if you're interviewing someone for research,
Right.
you have to let them know, like, hey, you're taking a part in a study, this is a research, and you also have to give them money. Like, sometimes it's a small amount, like $20 to take this survey, but it's still money. You don't, like, just extort research from them, which can be a thing in Asia sometimes. Like, I had a professor, Dr. Yo, and he thought he was going on a date while he was in academia, and he was still studying, and then once he's at the date, the girl is like, oh yeah, I have a couple of questions to ask you, help me with this research I'm doing, and then she's just firing off the questions and he's answering, and afterwards, okay, thanks, this was great, and then she left, and he was like, I felt so used, and this wasn't the proper way of going about it. So I think those types of things are often missing in some parts of the world, where there's like ethics concepts,
Research and ethics board.
research and ethics that are not as, maybe there's some loose rules and regulations out there, but the fact that someone's taking part in your research, unless they're a volunteer, they need to be compensated some way, even if it's like $5 and $10 or $20.
Right, absolutely.
Or you have to let them know, like, hey, you're part of this research and we're going to use this data, and those things are not as strictly followed in some parts of the world. So that's a very systemic and cultural thing, because even though there's like a system in place culturally, they're like, oh, this is all right. I mean, I'm doing academic work, so I have.
So it's normalized.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm doing is like for the good of humanity, so I can bend the rules a little bit and ask someone on a date, but then use them for research. It's fine, So that type of thing is more accepted in certain places than others. So that's a good example.
And I guess a lot of those places also have systems in place where, you know, you would have the research or ethics board or some kind of protocol in place. But then at the same time, there might be sort of these
Yeah, they
other
might be
aspects.
willing to look the other way because it's like, oh yeah, those rules are too strict and it's not easy to get research data and we just want to get the student through, you know what I'm saying?
I see.
So some places are more chill about that than other places.
Yeah, and I guess also sometimes in some parts of the world, it might be hard to find a community or hard to sort of engage in community-based research because it's, I guess, the way in which things are designed within that particular space does not quite facilitate for that to happen. And it takes time to cultivate relations as well.
Another recent thing that I got in the mail where I interviewed for this AI data annotation company called Mercor, and then they just informed me, hey, there's been a data breach, and it's really private information too. It's like my social security number, my ID, my government issued ID, like all kinds of sensitive information, and they're just, oh, there was a data breach. Some hacker went in, got the data, and now it's up there for sale. So if this sort of thing happened in, let's say, Southeast Asia and Malaysia, where I've been there for like 8-9 years, probably you don't have much options like, okay, my data is stolen, what can I do? I'm just sitting ducks. But if it happens in North America and Canada, especially in Canada, the laws are very strong. They have to let the governing body that regulates these things know within 30 days, which I'm not sure if they have done. But if they haven't, and if you have been affected by this data breach as a Mercor worker or someone who interviewed at Mercor, you have plenty of options. That would take another whole episode to discuss, so I'm not going to do it, but you can just get started by asking ChatGPT, hey, I interviewed at Mercor and my data has been breached, what are my options, what are my rights? So yeah, depending on where you are in the world, definitely system and culture, they play a big factor on what your rights are and where can you seek reparations, for example, that type of thing.
Yeah, and I guess one other thing that I'm also thinking is that culture is also ever evolving as well. But some cultural aspects can be static. It could be rooted in tradition, in different ideologies. So I'm still kind of doing that research into how to go about framing this term in a way that really merits the theory that I'm trying to work with here. So this is just sort of an initial way of kind of understanding and kind of entering into understanding how this expression would function.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you're still workshopping it, but I
Yes.
think it's a really good start and it's a really good aspect because sometimes systematic rules and regulations are not enough because if the local culture or the regional culture is in complete opposition to the rules you're trying to impose there,
Right.
it's not really going to work out very well, right? So in certain parts of Asia, for example, weed is handled as like a serious drug and then there's punishment in place, and it doesn't work very well because in certain parts of Asia there's like tradition of spiritual wandering men and women smoking weed. Like in Bangladesh, the Baul community, for example, they've been smoking
Right.
weed and participating in cultural festivals
Right,
where
yeah.
weed is an integral part of that festival. It's a music
Spiritual,
festival, spiritual
cultural.
songs, all the Bauls, they're kind of like ascetics who are wandering monks who also sing and all the songs are about devotion and love for God and nature, right? So it's a kind of spiritual
Beautiful
practice,
songs, by the way.
and they have been doing this for thousands of years. So you can't come in in 1980 and say that, oh yeah, weed is illegal. Anyone who smokes weed is going to be penalized heavily. The laws are in place, but they're hardly enforced, and they cannot be enforced because there's way too many people smoking weed in the streets of Dhaka and Bangladesh all over. And if the police were chasing them all the time, they wouldn't really get anything else done. So this is a great example of what you mentioned, What's the terminology again?
Systemico-cultural.
Yeah, this is a systemico-cultural failure because they put systems in place, but they didn't really understand the culture. So despite having systems in place, it doesn't really work.
Right.
Well, I think we can
that's it.
wrap
We're
up this
done
episode.
for
Thanks
today.
for watching,
Thank
and
you,
we'll come
and-
back next week, hopefully with Rinky.
Yes. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.